Futures this morning indicating a rally at the start of trading this morning. Take a look. The Dow Industrials right now up 243, about 2/3 of 1%. The Nasdaq up 350, 1 2/3%, and the S&P 500 higher by 66, better than 1%. Investors reacting to the news of the morning: a federal trade court's ruling against the president's sweeping tariffs, saying that he overstepped his authority. The White House filed an appeal quickly, arguing that Trump is working to remedy a national emergency by taking in more tariff revenue. The president also responding to criticism surrounding his trade deal process, as Wall Street is accusing him of, quote, chickening out on tariffs by delaying them. He instead called it negotiation. Joining me now in a Fox Business exclusive is the CEO of Citi. Jane Fraser is with us this morning. Jane, it's great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about. You've done such a great job in terms of diversifying and sticking to a core principle at Citi, so we'll get into that. But give us your reaction to the president's agenda and this new information this morning with this pushback on the president's tariffs.
Look, we all knew that this was a process that was going to take time to play out and would have twists and turns along the way. When we talked to our clients over in Asia last night and this morning, I think what we're seeing pretty clearly is a recognition that the president is resolute in addressing the different trade and structural imbalances that are there. And that tariffs will be one of his main tools to do so. And I expect they're expecting to see different forms of tariffs being focused on the sectoral tariffs and the like. But we're advising people to have a measured response to this.
Yeah, I mean, you've got such a great vantage point, particularly in your Treasury and Trade Solutions business. So I want to get your take on what you're hearing from big clients, the large multi-global corporations out there. How are they feeling about the president's agenda?
Well, look, they're looking at 3 different levels that they're engaging with us. The first, as you can imagine, we're present in 180 different countries. And so we're talking to clients about how do they think about their supply chains? Where is it that they're going to be redrawing new lines? Where is it they're going to be focusing on? What are the changes they need to make there? The second level is then their financing and hedging, shifts in foreign exchange, changes in the rates outlook. What does that mean for their financing? What does it mean for their hedging? And then finally, we're talking to them on the strategic agenda. AI is not going away anytime soon. It's going to be transforming different industries. So they're also very mindful about the changes they need to make there as well.
Do you feel that they're in their own so-called 90-day pause, watching to see what happens next, and in doing so, sitting on plans in terms of putting capital to work on you know, IT and on R&D? Are they waiting to put money down for big long-term projects because of a lack of clarity?
Every business leader and every investor prefers clarity. And I think we all know we've got to wait a little longer for that clarity, the tax bill, from tariffs, from what's going to happen on deregulation. But it's coming soon. Companies are being very actively engaged around what do they do next. They're ready to adapt. Once they have that clarity, they have different scenarios, they've got plans ready, and we've already seen M&A's been pretty active. I think it surprised us all by the fact that that's continued. We've seen some pausing of investment plans, we've seen some pausing of headcount and expansion, but probably not as much as everyone envisaged at the beginning.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah, I want to get your take on the capital markets business for sure, but let me stay with personal banking first, and that is this credit card portfolio that you've got, a great indicator in terms of what people are doing. What can you tell us about defaults and how the credit card business is indicating what's ahead?
The American consumer is being quite discerning in their spend, but they're still spending. The oil price coming down has certainly helped at the gas pumps, so that's provided a bit of relief. But we've seen essentials, good, strong growth there. Travel's been off a bit, but discretionary retail and other spending has been pretty robust all the way through the last couple of months. And the same on the delinquency side. Really no real concerning signs as yet. We've talked about recessions many times for the past few years,
yes,
and it's never materialized. I don't think we know yet. Too early to tell.
Isn't that interesting? Because there was so much worry about recession. We had Kevin Hassett on the other day, and he was talking about the second half of the year being quite robust. I want to get your reaction to this. Here's Kevin Hassett, the chairman of the National Economic Council at the White House. Watch.
Well, what's going to happen is there are going to be a lot of trade deals, and there's going to be clarity on the tax cuts, and then firms are going to lift off. But think about it. Even before that happened, we're getting really strong jobs numbers. First quarter capital equipment investment was north of 20%, one of the best quarters ever, because all of America knows that the golden age is coming and we got to start building stuff before everybody else gets in front of us. And so I think that you're going to look at a second half of the year that's way, way north of 3%, probably north of 4%, to give us one of the better years we've ever had. Because even with the uncertainty that you talk about, that I've written widely about over the last 25 years, even with that uncertainty, we've got strong jobs numbers and strong investment. And so once the uncertainty is lowered, then a liftoff from there is really going to be something to see.
Jane, I was taken aback by that. 4% growth in the second half. Do you have any indication of
I hope he's right.
Yes.
But it's too early to tell at the moment. We've got to see where things settle down. We've got to understand where the tariffs land. We want to see if it's a 10% tariff, that's a very different impact from a company than a 25% tariff. One they can absorb, the other they probably have to spread around.
Yeah.
So let's just wait and see how it plays out. We'll get a better sense from the hard data during the summer, and then we'll have a better read into the rest of the year. It's just too soon to call this one.
Tell me about the global economy, Jane. Another strength of Citi with businesses all across the world. How would you compare the United States to Europe and Asia?
We've got a backdrop of slowing global growth at the moment, in part because of the pauses that you were talking about earlier, Maria. I was just in Europe for the last couple of weeks, and they had a bit of a rebound, but they haven't tackled the structural issues that are holding the European economy back, which are the structural advantages to the US. We have scale, we have an integrated capital market that's broad and deep, we have labour mobility. Those are all areas of challenge for Europe. So I'm a bit more of a pessimist on the great European recovery. We see other bright spots. Had the great privilege and pleasure to be with the president in Saudi and the Middle East. They've got strong momentum behind them, good long-term vision, as well as short-term momentum, be it in energy and the data centers in the AI space. So quite a lot of tailwinds behind them. India's another interesting story as well. So Asia, a more positive outlook. Europe, I am a bit more negative around. And at the end of the day, all roads were leading to the US at the beginning of this year for a reason.
Yeah.
And I never think it's a good idea to underestimate the American entrepreneur and the American economy.
For sure. And that was a lot of the talk in the Middle East. I saw you there in Saudi Arabia. You saw all of that investment come here with the president coming back and touting trillions of dollars in new money. How do you expect that to play out with all that money coming from the Middle East? How will that be allocated? And do you think that's going to put a lift under certain sectors?
Yeah, the focus from the Middle East, UAE, Saudi, Qatar, others, is around the strength that we will have in technology and in AI. And that's both technology transforming industrial companies, healthcare. It's really making enormous difference here, and they want to make a bet on America. But the big area they're investing in is what I call the picks and shovels phase of AI. It's the data centers, making sure the energy is in the right shape, the grid is working well for us, putting investments behind some of the green sustainable energy, as well as the fossil fuel and the other dimensions.
And you also are instituting AI in your business at Citi. You wrote about it in your annual shareholder letter. You also wrote that you're fundamentally a different bank, simpler, more focused, fully aligned with what our shareholders expect of us. One of those goals has been to divest from unprofitable consumer businesses. You talked about the business of Banamex and eventually trying to IPO that consumer business. Where does that stand, and what can you tell us about these consumer businesses?
Yeah, well, look, let's take a step back. what a privilege to run a bank like this. We have fundamentally changed the bank. We're now focused here at home on our consumer and our business banking. But globally, we are the destination bank for multinational companies and institutional investors. And what we've been seeing with the bank as we've focused on that client base and the businesses to support them was an exit of our consumer franchises, and we've delivered really strong progress in the last 4 quarters, good top-line growth, improving returns, and delivering what our shareholders would expect from us. More work to do, but I am really pleased with the progress that we're making. A great proof point for me was India. We've been in India 124 years. Our retail banking franchise was a third of the franchise. We closed that deal in the sale 18 months ago. We're now bigger in India than we were when we owned that franchise.
Wow.
It's grown that much. So focus, really great team, and we delivered the results.
When would you expect the IPO of the consumer business in Mexico?
Look, we're going to be ready at the end of this year to IPO, but this is really going to be a function of the market conditions and regulatory approvals, different dimensions like that.
Well, you said it's a privilege.
Ready.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said it's a privilege to run Citi. It's a privilege for shareholders to have someone with a banking background at the wheel. After, the history of Citi is so interesting. And what? You had a hedge fund manager at one point, So you're bringing the banking bones back to this company. And I want to get your take on wealth management there, because that's been another focus. What are you seeing from investors, and what is your goal for the wealth management business?
I get very excited about the wealth management business because I look at our client base, and one of the great things about America is helping people convert savings to investments. We've got a phenomenal team under Andy Sieg. He's brought an incredible group of people from across the industry together, and they're on a mission to build this into one of the big growth engines for our firm, and they're delivering. We had 24% revenue growth last quarter. We've been bringing in a lot of net new investment assets, and many of our great institutional partners want to be on our platform around the world because we can attract a lot of investment from entrepreneurs in Asia, in Europe, in the US, in Latin America. They want to bank with Citi, and we're excited to serve them.
What do you want to say to shareholders who say, look, when you compare the tangible common equity of Citi versus your competitors, JP Morgan and Bank of America? Jamie Dimon was at his investor day the other day talking about much higher numbers. How do you get there? Are you looking to compete on that level in terms of tangible common equity?
Yeah, we are definitely looking at getting our valuation greatly improved as we go on a very clear strategy and path to drive 5 businesses to higher returns, to improve the performance of the bank overall. And the last year, we've made good, steady progress there. We've set out medium-term targets for next year, but they're a waypoint, they're not the destination. And our destination is to be in line with our peers.
Jane, you've got to believe that the regulatory backdrop is helpful with these new policies coming in. You've got Mickey Bowman now on the Fed as the supervisor of the banks. That's a positive. How does the change in the regulatory backdrop change what you do?
We've been very encouraged by the direction that Secretary Bessent has been laying out, but predominantly in letting banks be banks. And so how is it that we can do our job of supporting Main Street? So what are we doing to ensuring access to credit for our consumers, small businesses, and other smaller banks in the banking system? What are we doing about providing investment opportunities and saving opportunities? And I think getting the banks to be more focused on the material financial risks is going to be a benefit to all of our customers.
So when you look at the overall banking system deposits, is it about 5% at Citi?
Yes.
Yes. So you have much more room to go when you have an easier regulatory backdrop. Do you need to do an acquisition? Will you be doing acquisitions in terms of getting the deposit market share higher?
Well, we have tremendous market share with businesses in our cash management. We're the leading player globally in cash management. Operating deposits. Think about all the things that a company needs to do every day just to open their doors. We help them with their payroll, their liquidity management, their supply chain, their expense base. So those are all the capabilities that Citi brings to bear for companies. That's an extremely sticky and important deposit base for the bank. We're also seeing good growth in our digital capabilities for the consumer. And as you were hearing from me, we're focused on our revenue growth with the aim of also driving up returns.
So are you looking to increase deposits in the bank in terms of the personal bank? Consumer bank?
Yes, we've had many quarters now of very good revenue growth in our consumer banking business, and I'm very pleased to see it because it's an important feeder for the rest of our franchise.
Jane, what do you want to say to the Trump administration? I know you're in touch with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. What do you want to say to the administration in terms of policies that could be helpful to affect growth overall?
Look, clarity is really what's most important here, and they've been very clear that it's going to take a bit of time for the tax bill to come through, the deregulation to get effected, as well as the changes, say, to the tariffs. Once we've got that clarity, then I think companies will adapt, and then they'll start making investments that will help drive growth forward, as well as we'll be doing our job to bring investment into America, in line with what the administration is trying to achieve.
It feels like the investment bank...
Clarity.
I'm sorry, yes, clarity.
Yes, clarity.
It's the key word, which I asked President Trump about a couple of months ago in my interview with him. But it feels like the investment banking business has become more complex. You're seeing some activity in some areas, but still the IPO situation overall, not just Citi, I mean everywhere, is still sort of quiet.
We had the great gumming up of the sponsors and of the leverage finance, the IPO market. So there's definitely going to be a lot of demand for that when we get the clarity, and then I think we'll get a big unlock. Everyone had been hopeful that would be earlier on this year. It's coming. It's probably more likely to be next year.
Jane, it's great to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Jane Fraser is the CEO of Citi.